Rain lashed against the windshield of Lily's Subaru as she sat idling in the parking lot of Safekeep Storage on the gritty outskirts of Tacoma, Washington. In her trembling hand, she clutched a final notice invoice. It was addressed to her husband, Noah Campbell. Noah had been dead for 6 months. A sudden massive aneurysm had dropped him in the middle of their kitchen on a Tuesday morning while he was making his predictable oatmeal. For half a year, Lily had grieved the loss of a man who was the human equivalent of a beige cardigan. Noah was a senior actuary. He liked classical music, wore sensible shoes, and never went to bed past 10 o'clock. Their 15-year marriage was comfortable, if entirely devoid of surprises. Or so she had thought. The invoice, forwarded from a P.O. box she hadn't known existed, stated that Unit 418 was 3 months in arrears. Lily had driven out here expecting to find forgotten college textbooks, maybe a collection of vintage baseball cards he'd been too embarrassed to mention. She wiped a tear from her cheek, zipped up her raincoat, and stepped into the Pacific Northwest downpour. Gary, the facility manager with a chronic smoker's cough, used heavy bolt cutters to snap the padlock off the rolling metal door. "Happens all the time," Gary mumbled, dragging the screeching door upward. "Folks pass away. Leave a whole other world in these boxes." "Take your time, Mrs. Campbell." Lily stepped into the gloom of the 10-by-10 space, pulling a flashlight from her purse. As the beam swept across the room, her breath caught in her throat. There were no dusty cardboard boxes or forgotten sports memorabilia. The unit was immaculate. Along the left wall stood a heavy steel gun safe. Next to it was a polished mahogany wardrobe. In the center of the room sat a sleek, mid-century modern desk with a high-end laptop, entirely at odds with the cheap, particle board furniture Noah insisted they keep at home. Lily approached the wardrobe first. Her hands shook as she opened the double doors. The scent of an expensive musky cologne, something intoxicating, with notes of cedar and bergamot wafted out. Noah only ever wore drugstore Old Spice. Hanging inside were 6 custom-tailored Italian suits, silk ties, and 2 leather jackets. "What is this?" she whispered to the empty room. She moved to the desk. The top drawer was unlocked. Inside was a heavy fireproof document box. Lily pried it open and felt the floor drop out from beneath her. Stacked neatly inside were bundles of $100 bills wrapped in bank bands. Beneath the money lay 3 passports. Lily pulled them out, her vision blurring. The first was a Canadian passport. The photo was undeniably Noah, though his hair was styled differently, and he wore a sharp smirk she had never seen on his face. The name printed beside his picture was Simon Croft. The second passport was British, under the name Jonathan Hayes. Her heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. Who did I marry? At the bottom of the box was a stack of letters, tied together with a simple red ribbon. Lily untied it, pulling out the top envelope. The handwriting was feminine, frantic, and looping. Noah, the letter read. He found the drop in Portland. I had to take the boy and run. I'm scared, Artie. I don't know how much longer we can keep moving. Please tell me the accounts are secure. I need you. I miss you. Diana. A sob tore from Lily's throat, echoing off the corrugated metal walls. The betrayal tasted like ash. Her predictable, boring husband had a mistress. A secret life. Aliases. Piles of cash. While she had been struggling with fertility treatments for years, Noah had eventually suggested they abandon because it just wasn't meant to be. He'd been funneling money to a woman named Diana. He was playing international man of mystery while she stayed home cooking his low-sodium dinners. Anger, hot and blinding, replaced her grief. Lily shoved the letters, the passports, and a few banded stacks of cash into her tote bag. She was not going to let this ghost humiliate her. 48 hours later, Lily sat in a booth at a neon-lit diner in downtown Seattle, sliding the Canadian passport across the sticky Formica table. Sitting across from her was Henry Rollins, Henry was a retired Seattle PD detective who now ran a private investigative firm. He was a gruff man in his 60s with deep lines etched around his eyes. He picked up the passport, adjusting his reading glasses. "This is good work," Henry muttered, running a thumb over the lamination. "High-end forgery. You don't get this from some guy in an alley. This costs thousands. And you're telling me your husband was an actuary?" "He did risk assessment for a corporate insurance firm," Lily said, her voice tight. "Henry, I need to know who Diana is. I need to know if he had a child with her. I need to know how much of our life was a lie." Henry nodded slowly, slipping the passport and the copy of the letters into his briefcase. "Give me 3 days, Lily." Those 3 days were a waking nightmare. Lily barely slept. She paced her empty suburban home, staring at the armchair where Noah used to sit and read historical biographies. She hated him. She hated herself for not seeing the signs. How does a man hide custom suits, thousands of dollars, and a whole other personality? On Thursday evening, Henry called. "I need you to come to my office. Now." When Lily arrived, Henry was pacing behind his cluttered desk. The blinds were drawn. He didn't offer her a seat or a cup of coffee. He just turned a laptop toward her. On the screen was a surveillance photo of a woman with auburn hair holding the hand of a little boy who looked to be about 6 years old. "Is that Diana?" Lily asked, her voice trembling. "Her real name is Diana Sterling," Henry said, his tone grim. "And she was not your husband's mistress, Lily." "Your husband didn't have a mistress." Lily frowned, confusion cutting through her anger. "Then who is she? Had you ever heard of a company called Apex Logistics?" "It's a shipping conglomerate operating out of the port of Seattle. Noah's firm insured some of their freight lines," Lily recalled, digging through her memories of Noah's dry dinner table conversation. "Apex Logistics isn't just a shipping company, Lily. For the last decade, it's been a front for one of the largest human trafficking and illegal weapons syndicates on the West Coast. The CEO, Richard Sterling, is currently under federal indictment, though the feds haven't been able to make the charges stick because their key witnesses keep disappearing. Permanently." Lily felt the blood drain from her face. "What does this have to do with Noah?" Henry sighed, leaning against his desk. "Diana Sterling is Richard Sterling's ex-wife. 5 years ago, she found out what her husband was really doing. When she threatened to go to the authorities, Richard tried to have her killed. She went on the run with their son, Leo. The feds couldn't protect her. Sterling had men inside the bureau." Lily stared at the photo of the frightened woman. "Where does Noah fit into this?" "Noah was the actuary assigned to audit Apex insurance claims. I dug into his work files, Lily. Noah didn't just find discrepancies. He found the blood money. He found the entire financial ledger of Sterling's criminal enterprise buried in maritime insurance fraud." Henry paused, looking at Lily with a mixture of pity and profound respect. Instead of going to the compromised authorities, Noah created a phantom network. He used his access to quietly bleed Sterling's offshore accounts. He stole millions from a cartel, Lily, and he used that money to fund an underground railroad for witnesses and victims who had nowhere else to go. Diana was his primary responsibility. The room spun. The beige cardigan. The 10 o'clock bedtime. It was all a mask. "The passports," Lily whispered. "The suits." Ali Aziz, Henry confirmed. When he traveled for conferences, he was meeting with fixers, moving money, setting up safe houses. The suits, the cologne, he adopted a completely different persona, so no one would ever connect the flamboyant, wealthy Simon Croft to Noah Campbell, the boring actuary from Bellevue. He kept you out of it because if Sterling's men ever found out who he really was, you would have been the first person they tortured for information. Lily collapsed into a leather guest chair. The letters in the storage unit, they weren't love letters. They were status reports from a terrified woman relying on a guardian angel. "Where is Diana now?" Lily asked, wiping away a sudden, overwhelming flood of tears. I tracked the IP address from a secure server Noah was paying for. She's in a small coastal town in British Columbia. But Lily, Noah was the only one managing her funds. Since he died 6 months ago, the money stopped. She's completely exposed. Lily didn't hesitate. She stood up, her jaw set. Get me the address. The drive across the Canadian border took 4 hours. The rain had cleared, leaving a sharp, crisp chill in the air. Lily pulled up to a modest, weather-beaten cottage overlooking the gray waters of the Pacific. She walked up the wooden steps and knocked. A minute passed. The door cracked open, held by a heavy chain lock. A woman with auburn hair and exhausted, terrified eyes peered out. "Diana?" Lily said softly. The woman stiffened, her hand reaching for something out of sight. "Who are you?" "My name is Lily Campbell. I'm Noah's wife." Diana's breath hitched. She stared at Lily for a long, agonizing moment before closing the door, unlatching the chain, and pulling it wide open. Diana looked terrible pale, thin, wearing an oversized sweater. Behind her, a little boy peeked around a corner. "No one never told me you existed," Diana whispered, ushering Lily inside and quickly locking the door behind her. "He said he had no family. He said he was a ghost. He was trying to protect me," Lily said, her voice breaking. She reached into her large tote bag and pulled out the heavy bundles of cash she had taken from the storage unit, placing them on the kitchen table. "He died, Diana. 6 months ago. An aneurysm. I just found his storage unit." Diana let out a choked sob, sinking into a kitchen chair. She buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking violently. "I thought he abandoned us. I thought Richard finally got to him. The money stopped, and I've been waiting for the door to get kicked in every night for 6 months." Lily walked over and placed a trembling hand on the woman's shoulder. For a moment, she mourned the husband she thought she had, the simple, boring man who was supposed to grow old and gray with her. But as she looked at Diana and at the little boy who was now cautiously stepping into the kitchen, she felt an overwhelming surge of pride. Her husband wasn't a coward who ran away from a sterile marriage. He was a man who stood in the shadows, fighting monsters with spreadsheets and fake passports. "You don't have to be afraid anymore," Lily told her, pulling up a chair. "Noah left a ledger. He left a laptop. I have a private investigator who is handing the decrypted files over to a federal judge in New York, completely bypassing Seattle. Richard Sterling's empire is going to be dismantled by Tuesday." Diana looked up, tears streaming down her face. "He saved my son's life, Lily. Noah saved us. I'm so sorry he had to lie to you to do it." "So am I," Lily admitted, a sad smile touching her lips. "But I understand." A week later, Lily returned to the storage unit. The police had cleared out the laptop and the ledgers, but they had left the personal effects. She stood in front of the heavy steel gun safe. Henry had managed to find the combination hidden in the metadata of one of Noah's files. Lily spun the dial, 3412-88. The heavy bolts clicked, and she pulled the door open. There were no weapons inside. Sitting on the empty metal shelf was a single, sealed envelope with her name on it. Lily. It was in Noah's familiar, precise handwriting. She sat at the expensive mahogany desk, sliced the envelope open, and unfolded the heavy parchment paper. "My dearest Lily, if you are reading this, it means my heart finally gave out, or my luck did. Either way, I am so deeply sorry for the pain I know this discovery has caused you. You married an actuary. You married a man who promised you safety, predictability, and a quiet life. I gave you that life, but I had to steal the peace of mind to do it. When I found out what Apex was doing, I had 2 choices: look the other way or burn it to the ground. I chose the fire, but I couldn't let the smoke touch you. You are the kindest, brightest part of my existence. Every time I had to put on that suit, every time I had to become someone cold and calculating, I survived it by coming home to you. You were my anchor to humanity. You were the only real thing in a world made of lies. I know you wanted children, Lily. It broke my heart to tell you we should stop trying. But I couldn't bring a child into our home, knowing the danger I was courting. I couldn't risk leaving you a single mother with a target on your back. Please forgive me for the secrets. Forgive me for the boring dinners and the early bedtimes. It was the only way to keep you invisible to the people I was hunting. In the false bottom of this desk, you will find an account number in Geneva. It is clean money, legal money. My life insurance, heavily multiplied. Take it, travel, paint again, live the loud, vibrant life I kept you from. I loved you in every life I lived, Lily. But Noah Campbell was the only man who got to hold your hand. Forever yours, Artie. Lily pressed the letter to her chest, inhaling deeply. The scent of the expensive cologne still lingered in the room, but beneath it, she could almost smell the faint, familiar scent of old paper and oatmeal. She stood up, folded the letter into her pocket, and walked out of the storage unit into the bright, clear Washington morning. She didn't look back as she pulled the rolling door down, the crash echoing like a final period at the end of a remarkable story. She had lost a boring husband, but she had uncovered a hero. And for the first time in 6 months, Lily felt completely, wonderfully alive.